Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Webcast Wednesday. My name is Avni Gala, and I'm the marketing manager here at FindTech. Today, Webcast Wednesday invites you to a special presentation in which Sean Caribou will talk about securing web applications with FortiWeb and FortiSandbox. Let's look at today's agenda. So I'm going to start off with introducing FindTech. Then we're going to do a presentation today by Sean, followed by question and answers. And then finally, we're going to do our 2 drawings for $25 Amazon gift card. So for those who are not familiar with FindTech, we are a value-added distributor that specializes specifically in network security and IT security solutions. We work with Fortinet, Area Networks, AlgoSec, Bedford Networks, Exablocks, which is now StorageCraft, and Redmond IT. So these are the companies that we distribute products of. And the services that we provide includes inventory. So we are one of the value-added distributor that would hold inventory for customers well built. We provide financing. We give you flexible payment methods. We do sales support from initial code to close, any marketing support like events, webinars, advertising campaigns, and any technical services from demo to deployment. So if you need an extra hand, we supply hand to the demand. So that's about us. And before I hand it over to Sean, let me brief you on his bio and what today's webinar will cover. So Sean has been working in the IT field for approximately 17 years. 5 of those years he spent serving in the U.S. Navy as cryptologic technician. After getting out in 2004, Sean spent the next 8 years working in the General Dynamics and as an IT contractor. After coming back to the States in 2012, he went to work for Hegarty Insurance as their senior network engineer. In 2014, Sean took a role for Fortinet WAR in pre-sales engineering role and then came to Fortinet in 2016. So that was about Sean, and in today's webinar, he will cover how the FortiWeb can be deployed to protect the web application environment, how sandboxing is becoming a cornerstone of any security posture, and how FortiSandbox mitigates threats. And he will also talk about how FortiWeb and FortiSandbox integrate together to create a secure fabric for protecting web-based applications. So without further ado, I'm going to now hand it over to Sean to further explore the subject.
Thank you, Vani. Let me share my screen here. So let me do that, and then I can start up the web application here.
Yep.
All right. Thank you guys for letting me spend some of the afternoon here with you to try and give you guys a better understanding of our very broad product portfolio. As Avani said, my name is Sean Caribou, Channel Systems Engineer with here at Fortinet. So what we will try to cover here is, Fortinet, we are and what we do for those of you that aren't particularly familiar with, everything that we do. I'll touch on that. I'll also touch on FortiGuard Labs because they are the secret sauce, if you will, for everything that we actually do here at Fortinet. It's really the intelligence behind everything. I'm going to touch on, some of the threat landscape as to, what the security challenges are and what it is that we're trying to address here with the Sandbox and the FortiWeb. And then I'll touch on the cornerstone, that's cornerstone piece of it, which is going to be the FortiSandbox, why it's becoming such a focal point, and then FortiWeb and how that kind of integrates with the Sandbox. So Fortinet, the company overview, we were founded back in 2000, whenever Ken and Michael Z left Juniper after selling their product of NetScreen off. We went public back in 2009. We've been doing 1.3, I think it's now around 1.4 billion in revenue annually. We've been doing roughly about 30 to 35% growth year over year. And just kind of give you an example as to how quickly we're growing is back in when I joined last February. I want to say that this number for employees were roughly around just around 4,000. We're now 4,650 plus. So, and that number is always growing. One of the other things I like to mention here is we have over 3 million devices shipped. There's still roughly about 2 million devices that are currently active on the network. I mention that because it's going to kind of come into play whenever I talk about FortiGuard Labs, and we are the #1 unit share worldwide whenever it comes to security devices deployed, and we also have 358 technology patents currently, and then we have another number is a little bit dated there. It's roughly about 315 patents that are currently pending as well too. So we are a technology company through and through. So. This slide here, right here, just is kind of talking about, we are a global network security leader. We're in 10 of the top 10, carrier, telecommunications companies. They rebrand our stuff and they send it out there. We play in, the Fortune companies and all, America, EMEA, APAC. So we're all over the world. So a lot of people sometimes when they think of Fortinet, they think of, that you're only in the SMB play, but we play in much larger spaces than just that. So, FortiGuard Labs, again, this is the secret sauce. I always kind of like to show people what we call the pew pew map here because it looks like war games, and this is just kind of an iteration. It's 0.01% of all the current things that FortiGuard Labs is actually out there gathering. So, the FortiGuard minute. This is just kind of giving you guys a quick overview as to how much threat analysis that these guys are actually collecting on a week, per minute, and just the size of our whole database. 326 terabytes of threat samples is what we actually collect, and that's like one of the largest, if not the largest, threat sample database in the world. I mean, we're part of the Cyber Threat Alliance. We actually founded that, and it's just found 375 zero-day threats. I mean, the number's constantly growing. But it's just kind of a testament. This is 250 plus guys last time I checked that we kind of keep locked away in a basement somewhere in Vancouver, and their sole job is to just do analysis on these threats that we see on a daily basis. So those 2 million some odd devices, it's kind of like a crowdsourcing thing. So whenever these devices detect a threat of any kind, it's sending it back to FortiGuard Labs for analysis, just kind of see which threats are the most active out there in the world. So another real quick slide. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but just kind of gives you a rough idea as to how much threat sampling that we actually have out there. So the threat landscape, the infrastructure is under constant change. We know that it makes adapting quite difficult. So it makes adapting to the infrastructure quite difficult because one of the biggest challenges is that the needs of the business are constantly changing. So therefore, the infrastructure has to be able to constantly adapt. We see, everybody's wanting to bring Internet of Things devices to the networks. We're getting faster speeds. The Wi-Fi speeds are just starting to get really crazy fast. And what's happening is Wi-Fi is becoming a bigger piece of your infrastructure. It's no longer just a commodity. It's just it's kind of becoming the primary connection. And then you look right here, we have the big data analytics. People are collecting all this information and just trying to find ways. Okay, well, you're going out to these webs here. You were looking at some shoes on Amazon. So we're taking this analytical data and we're trying to use it for targeting ads. So the infrastructure is under constant change, and it just creates a whole new facet of attack vectors that hackers can exploit to try and wreak havoc on everybody else's network. So essentially what that leads to is, we live in a society to where everything has to be convenient and everything has to be easy. So what that essentially means is that, security is more of an inhibitor. People don't, like to have to deal with security. So the idea is, security has really kind of become borderless, and the attack surfaces, has increased drastically as you get more and more of these devices out on the network. People are putting their sprinkler systems there. I even saw a thing not too long ago where they're talking about their crock pot is now Wi-Fi enabled. There's just these kind of devices, and these are all devices that attackers can use to get into your network and exploit things or collect data or get your credit card information. So, perfect example, you have your point of sale devices, mobile devices, Internet of Things. These are all vectors that people can use to get into the network. So people are using things like the SaaS, software as a service, cloud, internet, and all those devices on the network have to fall back home to your infrastructure. So it creates a very complex environment, and as we're trying to highlight here, the security has really become borderless. So so what do? Well, you need a security strategy in place that's going to help thwart those things. So we have Sandbox, which is becoming one of the big cornerstones, because this is going to be how we're going to try and stop a lot of our targeted attacks. I mean, we're all going to be be victims at some point of some kind of spam phishing or something else along those lines that we get an email. But the sandboxing piece of it is becoming a much larger thing, because hackers are getting more and more creative with the ways that they do things. So with our sandboxing technology, it's part of our advanced threat protection. It's a multi-layered code emulator. So what does that mean? Well, we try to emulate codes. We can kind of see what files are doing, and we put them in a secure environment before they ever really get onto the network to be able to prevent that stuff from getting onto like your machines or whatever, and then spreading across there. There's a number of flexible operation modes that we can do with our sandbox. There's a couple other competitors out there as well too. Pan has one. They have a Wildfire appliance. Checkpoint has a sandboxing appliance as well too. I think that's called Sandblast. And FireEye is another key component. I'll get into some of those differences here a little bit later, but I just kind of want to throw out some of the key people that you might want to think about, like if you're ever talking about a sandboxing opportunity with somebody, and just we'll talk about some of the what makes Fortinet a little bit different. And then going back there, the monitoring reporting, we do a detailed analysis as to what's going on with that piece of malware or file that's trying to do something that's not supposed to be doing. So there's a couple key components that we talk about here. The way that our stuff works is we have the AV pre-filter. So when you're thinking about this sandboxing, especially whenever you integrate it with a FortiGate, there's going to be what we call the AV pre-filter. It's just before it ever sends it off to the sandbox, it wants to see if it's going to be malicious, and this is going to be based on those signatures and threat analysis that we do at FortiGuard Labs. Okay, what are the most active signatures? And then if it doesn't have anything on it, then it's going to swing out to the FortiSandbox community, which is FortiGuard Labs. See what it does. It's going to try to emulate it with a code emulation to see what is it actually doing. Is it trying to evade? Is it trying to obfuscate? Or do we need to actually put it into a real sandbox and really monitor exactly what it is that we're doing? So we'll talk about that a little bit more here. So the ultimate goal is to just kind of do the callback and mitigate the threats. So the first stage of that we kind of look at is, okay, what is it actually doing here? So code emulation, what I talked about, it's going to be, is this stuff encrypted? Is it packeted malware? Is it zipped up a number of times? And then we're going to run that, through the AV engine and see if it's polymorphic code versus like just a simple pattern based. So CPRL, which is content pattern recognition language, this is a patented technology that we actually have in there, our sandbox, that is going to be able to take those malware patterns, if you will, because they tend to be static, and we're going to actually look at all the variants that are associated with those patterns. So, as an example, the typical life cycle of a piece of malware is, within the first hour of its inception, once it's out on the network, that that piece of malware usually evolves throughout the day, close to 100 times throughout a day. So with CPRL, we're able to take that that piece of malware, and we're able to kind of recognize it, be like, well, this kind of acts like CryptoLocker and smells like CryptoLocker. This is definitely going to be a variant of CryptoLocker as an example. So the next step, the hash file sent out there to FortiGuard service is going to check against those 326 odd terabytes to see, have we seen this before? And the key thing there is that this is the last chance for us to really detect the malware with the pre-filtering before it actually gets fully blown in the sandbox for analysis. So again, FortiGuard, it's during the analysis, all the connection attempts, is this trying to go out to command and control sites? Is this going out to a zombie bot or something like that out there on the web? It's going to do all that checking. And then from there, we're going to do IP ratings. Are these guys going out to, our known bad geo IP stuff? Is it going out to China? Is it going out to, what are the ratings of these IPs that are trying to connect with? Is it going out to Russia? And then from there, the files are going to be sent and fed into the intelligence database right there. So, and if the sandbox is suspicious, at those points, if we see that this is like an exe file, for example, or something along those lines, then it's going to actually be sent to the sandbox for full detonation. So as we can see right here, we find out that that's an actual virus. So once you do it, and then we're going to do all the tracking on that to see exactly what it is that it was actually doing. What did it actually try to? What files did it try to change on the computer? What did it try to make some registry changes or anything else like that? And then what we do at that point is we do a callback, and we take a number of screenshots as to what it actually was doing during the sandboxing piece, and then we're going to create a very in-depth report. It's going to be a 7-8-page report as to what was actually going on with that piece of malware or the application that you're sandboxing. So again, the execution emulated environment. So this is not actually residing on your network ideally. So it's going to try and prevent that stuff from ever happening and reaching your machines. Currently, we only support Windows machines, although on the roadmap we are supposed to be able to start being able to do some emulation with Mac OS, but that's on the roadmap, so it's not currently available. And we can also do with some Android. We're looking for the anti-evasion techniques. So what do? We try to make sure that it's, we capture, again, those screenshots, the files that it access, all that kind of stuff. So then we do the recording, and then we do the callback. And then what we end up doing is we do the rating. We send it out there. Is this something that's legit, or is it malicious? So whenever we get to talking about sizing these boxes, so if you have a customer that's interested in these, we currently have a few of these available. We have the 1000D, we have the 3000D, we have the 3000E, and as you can kind of see, one of the things that you need to really take into consideration when you're trying to size these boxes is how many sandboxing files are they going to be looking at per hour. So we see on the 1000D it's 160. So you just kind of get an idea as to what the environment's actually like. Are they going to be receiving a ton of PDF files? Are they going to be getting a bunch of Word documents that might have some malicious code in them? So how many of these are they going to be getting on a daily basis, on a per hour basis? So if like how many users are going to be doing that? So those are all just key considerations when you're looking at the size of these boxes to figure out how large of a box your customers are going to need. And obviously, we here at Fortinet, we're going to be here to help you guys size these boxes if you have any questions. So, so right here, the same one. One of the things I want to point out here as well too is we also have a cloud version with of sandboxing with AWS and Azure. So it's going to be based on the resources, what you have available for those guys out there in the cloud. And then we also do the VMs, which is going to allow the customers to kind of scale, and they just add the additional licensing to it. So again, it's going to be based on their hardware. Then we have the appliances. So this one here, we're just kind of talking about some of the scan engines, the input methods that we have, the statuses and availability. So just kind of touch again real quick. We have that what we call the security fabric. The sandbox integrates with the FortiGate, FortiMail, FortiWeb, and FortiClient. The way that it does it is like, for example, with FortiWeb, which we're going to talk about here, is you can actually protect your applications, your web-based applications, by sending stuff off to the sandbox before people are accessing it, or looking to see if people are trying to do SQL injection or anything else along those lines. With like FortiMail, same thing. You can send the mail to the sandbox before it ever reaches the end user or the client. You have the possibility to prevent end users from downloading stuff until things clear the sandbox if you wanted to. So that's the way that we kind of identify previously known threats, everything else along those lines. And the beauty of it as well too is if with that integration, especially if they're bought into the entire ecosystem of Fortinet products, is once the sandbox finds something, it can actually dynamically update everything else out there. It's going to be able to update the FortiGate with the signatures. It's going to be able to update the FortiMail. It's going to be able to update FortiWeb and FortiClient with all those latest signatures, and it's going to send that back out to the community, and it's going to get pushed out to everybody else. So now we're going to talk a little bit about FortiWeb. This is our web application firewall that's used for protecting the web-based applications. So, some of the security trends right there, 40% of data breaches are caused by application vulnerabilities. That's probably not anything new. 80% of enterprises have web app firewalls. So these are going to be like your Citrix NetScalers, your F5 web app firewalls, and that are going to kind of be out there as well too. So PCI compliance is a very huge reason why a lot of people need to have a web application firewall. So it's kind of a bit more of a requirement. IPS alone isn't going to be good enough to protect against zero-day threats. And obviously the reason is because there's no signature that's been developed for it as of yet. So, and SSL is becoming a bigger piece of web traffic today. So you need to have the ability to inspect web traffic. One of the other things that we also find a lot of customers are using a web application firewall for is for data leak or data loss prevention as well too. So it's another capability that we have built into the web application firewall. So it's just we're integrated with AccuNex, with the vulnerability report in 2016. We've made a lot of ground in terms of making our web application firewall a little bit more viable to be able to compete against, like I said, the NetScaler and the F5. So again, like I talked about the WAFs here, the idea is to protect these web-based applications from SQL injection, cross-site scripting, layer 7 DOS, DDoS attacks, and cookie poisoning. So as we see in the graphic here, these you position the WAF, the web application firewall, in front of your web application servers and everything, and it's going to usually typically reside out in some kind of DMZ. The other thing that it also does as well too is it understands, it tries to learn the normal behaviors when things are coming in. What are the parameters? What are the methods? Who's logging in to these applications? Are they doing things that they're not supposed to be doing. So it does a lot of the behavior analytics as well too. So who needs it? And again, right here, any organization that processes credit cards, they have a large number of external applications that are residing out on the internet that people are accessing via the DMZ. Anybody that has some sensitive or proprietary information that they want to try and protect. And it's definitely something that people want to look at for keeping their business critical applications, protected. So who needs it most? I would definitely say, healthcare is probably one of the number one people that need to make sure that they have a WAP, because they're trying to protect the patient data or social security numbers, anything along those lines. And then obviously from there is going to be anybody that's trying to process any kind of PCI or credit card payments. And as we kind of talk about right here, a WAF is a must-have for PCI 6.6 compliance. So we have 7 models of the WAF. We also have a virtual appliance, and it scales all the way from 25 megs of throughput all the way up to 20 gigs throughput. We have a number of different interfaces. And again, we have the integration with the FortiGate, FortiSandbox, and the FortiAnalyzer as well too. So, excuse me. So when we talk about integration here, we do the native integration with the Sandbox, but we're also going to be able to do integration with a number of other firewalls that support REST API. This is already set up for multi-tenancy with the central management and the ADOMs. You can do all that through the FortiManager as well too. And again, you have the auto setup in learning mode. So it's trying to make the deployment as seamless as possible. And in learning mode, it's going to try and detect a lot of those behaviors and see, kind of create a baseline of, what is actually the normal behavior. Another thing that we do that I touched on is more and more traffic is becoming SSL encrypted. So it has the ability to do SSL offloading and compression as well. So this is just kind of highlighting some of the performance that goes along with each one of those of our main boxes. So when you're looking at these first iterations, so the 100, 400, 600D, the SSL is done in software. So what that means is that it's going to be a lot more taxing on the box if you have to do software decryption or inspection. Once you get into the data center models, such as the 1000, 2000, 3000, there's a dedicated ASIC that is just part of that box. That is, its sole purpose in life is to just purely be able to decrypt that and inspect that SSL traffic. And then we have the VM boxes that are kind of stackable. So if you had a customer, for example, that they needed a web application firewall, but they just needed a basic one to start off with, and then later on, a couple of years later, they get additional bandwidth. You can actually just stack an additional license on there. So that's what the VM01, 02, 04 kind of signify. And then just like the Sandbox, we also support these services out in the cloud, Amazon and Azure as well. So the benefits are just going to kind of be like right here. It helps to meet PCI compliance. It's going to protect the applications through anomaly-based scanning. We have the ATP integration with Sandbox and FortiGate to do IP polling and quarantine those things. And there's the vulnerability scanning to make sure that help you to make sure that your websites are always going to meet PCI compliance, or also along those lines. So then you can do the mitigation and hopefully the remediation as well too. And then we have the deployment with the FortiGate and the WCCP integration. It's just pretty much that auto setup. Again, we're what this slide is really trying to signify is at each one of these levels. So the integration is shown off to the right there that it has integration with the Sandbox and the FortiGate, and that's for the advanced threat protection as well too. So it's going to be able to analyze the websites, making sure that nobody's doing the SQL injection and doing the patient gets or anything else along those lines. The IP reputation that's going to be going out to FortiGuard Labs. That's what that little shield means, is that it's going out to FortiGuard Labs. And then, the known application attack types, it's getting those signatures from the FortiGuard Labs. Same with the viruses and malware. So again, I touched on these very briefly. Some of the key features that's going to be a bit of a differentiator is the auto learn. It's transparent, pattern monitoring. It's going to understand the real behavior. So, you don't have to really make a whole lot of changes to your applications. It's going to protect against the unknown vulnerabilities and zero-day attacks, and that's through having that integration with FortiSandbox. So the vulnerability scanning, again, this is compliments for PCI compliance as well too, making sure that your web apps are as secure as they can be. So I got to kind of roll through these here a little bit because I'm running a little bit short on time here. And again, the integration, we have the IP pulling with the FortiGate and WCCP. You can do the file scanning with the Sandbox and the cloud integration. And we've had that since August 2016 with the cloud integration. These are some of the people that we actually work with in terms of third party through our REST API. So we have integration with like White Hat, Qualys, Accunex, QRadar, all that kind of stuff for our integration. And there's always more and more integration points that are kind of happening with all of our stuff. The threat scoring, obviously, when we take a look at these different rules here, for regards like, okay, well, user is. This is the first ever for scoring on the WAF. So user one kind of comes in. It's going to kind of rate it across these little rules and see what it is that they're trying to access. What are they trying to inject some malicious code? Are they going out to these websites with your app? So are they trying to access information that they're not supposed to be with your like Salesforce or anything along those lines? Again, user tracking. It just, all activity is going to be tracked as and classified as good and bad. And it's going to be giving you a lot of the forensics and analysis about the compromised users, whatever. False positives, it's also goes back to that threat scoring thing that I kind of mentioned, making sure that, is this user legit? SQL injection validation is a very key component. That's usually one of the most common attacks that you have to be cognizant of is SQL injection and cross-site scripting. Whenever you're looking at a lot of your web applications that people are actually using. So this slide is just trying to highlight some of the key things like right there, form field that's validated as an attack by FortiWeb. So it's select from where. These are all key SQL commands. So it's trying to make sure that those are all valid commands. So versus when you look up top there, I need to select a party location from a group. So it's just making sure that it's actually legit versus not legit. So as you can see from customer records, so that customer records is going to be one of the tables or a field in there where credit card is not null. So it wants to make sure that the credit card field isn't empty. So it's going to get that, and it's going to want to look at by state. So this is essentially just kind of like a back end base, based on the research, with hacking experience and everything. Over 10,000 SQLI and strings are used to test these methods just to make sure that they're all legit and um, valid. So again, we get a lot of this stuff from the FortiGuard labs, and it's all subscription based as well too. So you have your IP reputation, your antivirus, cloud, sandbox hosted. This is one of the key things is that we're positioned as a challenger in the 2016 Magic Quadrant. We just recently changed here with NSS Labs. We are now right there. We're actually right next to Citrix. It might be a little bit hard to see there, but we're number 2 in terms of total cost of ownership. Citrix is currently number 1, and then you have F5 and Radware coming in 3rd and 4th. So competitive advantages. FortiWeb is the fastest WAF on the market today, and that's in a tribute to our ASICs that we have integrated into the box. Only WAF with FortiGate next-gen firewall and sandbox integration. And a lot of other guys don't necessarily have a sandboxing component that's going to be able to complement their web application firewall. It's the only WAF with a vulnerability scanner and antivirus built in. Industry-leading features, scoring, tracking, syntax analysis. And then when we look down here at the table, there's the AV that's actually included. It's actually built in. You can get the other stuff from Barracuda, F5, Citrix, but it's all a separate license that people have to stack on top of it. So that's one of the things that gives us a very good, total cost of ownership differentiator between people like F5 or Imperva. So pricing and licensing, like typical FortiGate fashion, we include the hardware. It's not like you have to. We're gonna do the bundles, with the reputation. So you can pay for these IP reputation, web security service, sandboxing out in the cloud if you want to. There's that ability to do the sandboxing out in the cloud, or if you want to do the on-prem, you get that additional integration that I was kind of talking about, where the sandbox will dynamically update the FortiWeb on its own. So objection handling. So these are, what does this mean whenever you're talking to customers? We regularly review our applications for security flaws. We don't need a WAF. Well, it's going to automatically be able to protect those applications, without having the need to constantly scan it or whatever. And then, next one that we might hear is our developers know the code well enough to address security issues. With the ever-changing threat landscape and the creative ways that hackers are doing things right now, even programmers aren't going to be good enough to be able to protect all the web applications all the time. There's going to be things that are missed. There's going to be patches. There's always new exploits going out on a daily basis. And then, right here, we've never had a data breach on our security measures are good enough. Well, like this says right here, 96% of all web-based applications have been attacked in 2013. And, it's a very common thing, is that, there's a lot of times where people have been attacked and they don't even know it. So, even perfect examples like, the target attack is, that attack lived inside the network for months before it was ever fully discovered. So, and even whenever it was discovered, it actually sat in there even longer. So, why do I need a standalone WAF instead of a module on an ADC? Well, there's some key components there. A lot of people don't always necessarily look at the ADC as a WAF. I mean, it's the primary job of the ADC is going to be doing stuff like global service load balancing or being able to do the SSL offloading as quickly as possible. So a lot of those security features aren't going to necessarily be built into the box. So, and a lot of times what ends up happening is if you actually just have a module component of it, the integration isn't necessarily always the best. So I've never heard of Fortinet for WAF. Why should I look at FortiWeb? And number one answer for that is just because we rely very heavily on third party for our validation. So, and it's a very legit product, and it's something that we've made a lot of progress on over the last few years, especially getting recognized by Gartner and the Magic Quadrant as a valid contender. So, qualifying questions. I'm not going to go through all these. One of the biggest things is just to make sure that if somebody wants to meet PCI compliance, they need to probably make sure that they have some kind of a WAF. That's one of the key components there. There's all kinds of white papers, solution guides, positioning guides out there available. This just is kind of listing some of those resources that are going to be available to you guys out there. If you guys are more interested, feel free to stop out there. And with that, I will turn it back over to Avani.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Thank you again for taking your time out to present and educate our partners. Do we have any questions? If you do, you can put it in the Q&A box or the chat box. And meanwhile, let me take the control back and share the screen. Okay, we're going to wait for a couple of minutes to see if anyone has questions. Meanwhile, this is our sales territory map that you can use to contact your regional sales rep if you have any questions or any feedback for us. Okay, looks like there is no question. Okay, we're gonna move on, and I would like to show you guys our partner portal. You can have access to our previous presentations along with the presentation link and the recording. And you can also have access to additional resources like the map or line card. And solution briefs along with the 49 talking points and partner promotions. So that was about us, and I'm going to now do a final drawing for 2 people to win $25 Amazon gift card. Uh-oh. Okay, congratulations, Joe Go and James Siru for winning the $25 Amazon gift card. And once again, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Sean. We will see you on May 3rd. And the invites for the same will be sent out soon. Thank you, everyone. Oh. Bye.